Hello, everyone, and welcome to our LinkedIn Live today, brought to you by Emerge, the freight procurement platform. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I'm the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain and Blended. And of course, I'm going to be your host for this LinkedIn Live event today. Now, we're going to be talking about one of the most important topics of the last couple of years, and that's agility. Before the pandemic, it's not something we talked about a lot. We talked about problem solving and having to be responsive, but by and large, a lot of us just joked about how stuck we are in our ways, not working together and still happily doing everything in Excel. And we're in a very different place now. We've come to realize that achieving agility in our supply chains is really the key to resilience, to efficiency, to growth. It's really the key to thriving in a post-pandemic world. And last year, a study by McKinsey found that highly successful agile transformations typically delivered around 30% gains in efficiency, customer satisfaction, employee engagement, and operational performance, and made the organization 5 to 10 times faster and turbocharged innovation. And those gains translate into real competitive advantage. So the question is, who's in the driver's seat with your supply chain? What are you doing with your businesses to up your agility game and maximize those gains? Because you don't want to be left behind. Well, today I am joined by Dave Maddox, Vice President of Enterprise Sales for Emerge, to really dig into this today. So welcome, Dave. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Sarah. Appreciate it.
Awesome. You and I are going to have a really great discussion
Look forward to it.
all about supply chains and the exciting things that you're doing over at Emerge. So I'm excited.
You bet.
All right. So let's just set the scene a little bit. And actually, I want to let everybody know who is in the audience today, that we're going to be taking questions throughout this discussion. So make sure that you put your questions into the comments, especially if you're over on my personal LinkedIn. I'm going to be monitoring that as well, because we want to make sure that we get to all of your pressing questions about supply chain. I mean, we're at the end of 2022. We're going into 2023 with a lot of questions, and we want to answer those today. So Dave, broadly, what do we mean by agility? We're talking about something that's impact should be felt across strategy, procurement, inventory, delivery. I mean, the list kind of goes on, but we hear this word agility all the time. So talk to me about what we mean by that word.
I think in a nutshell, it just really means being able to quickly make decisions based on what's going on with your business, being able to look at your business, apply technology where it makes sense to make a quicker decision and use that technology to help make that decision. I think that's what agility is. I mean, over the last couple of years, the resiliency was really that key word for the pandemic. Now it's really, how do I be as agile as possible? What can I use to help me do that?
Absolutely. And, why is agility so important right now?
Well, it just, in the transportation field where we are, it's that ability to be able to take your shipments, your business, and be able to make decisions based on what's happening in the business, changes that happen in the business, talking to all the different partners within your business, not just sourcing, not just transportation, but warehousing, inventory, and so forth, to make that agile decision on what we need to do in order to make sure the end result is the right result for our customer and our business and our bottom line.
Absolutely. I want to say a quick hi to Imran over on my personal LinkedIn. Thank you so much for joining us, and remember to ask your questions. And so how does agility, tie in with resilience? Because we often talk about the two going hand in hand, or at least I'm hearing the word agility and resilience kind of every day.
Yeah, and for us, it's really being able to take the business out to bid, be able to take your transportation, understand your transportation, and quickly be able to take those particular lanes that may be above market or pain point or poor acceptance or poor service, and use, being agile to be able to take technology, drive a quicker decision. So you're not having to make those phone calls and emails and figure out what I'm going to do and take you, 30 days to do it. So being agile based on the resilience to make quicker decisions is really what I think is so important, and the ability for Emerge to be able to help our customers do day in and day out.
Yeah, well, and it's all about those quicker decisions, right? I mean, look at where we're at right now. I mean, pre-pandemic, supply chains kind of chugged along, and now there's so many disruptions. There's so many different things that are happening, challenges that we have to face every single day. You have to be resilient to get through those challenges, but I think it's the quicker decisions that you're talking about that's really the competitive advantage that people need to hone in on and really make a part of their everyday working in supply chains.
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about those challenges that are being faced, if that makes sense, by carriers, by shippers, and
Sure.
our customers. And so for carriers, it's really the ability to get the visibility at their fingertips, to be able to review, submit capacity and rates, tie into where people have some business. How do I do that? They have sales folks that make those cold calls to shippers to say, hey, we want to be part of your business, or maybe they're an incumbent carrier. But a lot of times they're just looking for that connectivity. So, through Emerge, we give them that ability, because they can be vetted and be part of our Emerge marketplace, which we've got over 40,000 vetted partners, if you will. But it's that carrier now able to take that, be able to quickly protect their business and increase their utilization and their bottom line margin and driver retention, right? So that's really, since things have gotten a little softer, they're looking for freight. So how can I tie in to get that freight? I think that's a key piece for the carrier side. For the shippers, I would say the ability to really take that current and new sales, customer shipments out to market quickly, timely, and broaden by inviting additional network partners. The old adage was, hey, I want to give my business to less carriers to be able to get it done. And because the amount of time it took me to send that Excel spreadsheet out or make those calls, and get people under contract, I instead of having hundreds of carriers, I only want to have a handful of carriers. Where technology today that we deploy allows you to bring on hundreds of carriers to really take a look and really help that shipper make the right decision, more than just that phone and email. And then our customers, the challenge is really with the market fluctuations is having the ability to pivot quickly, timely, using tools to benchmark, submit spot contract shipments that can be project or quarterly in nature.
Absolutely. I was recording a podcast the other day, and I'm taking this in a different direction a little bit. I was recording a podcast the other day talking about the food and beverage industry and how those quick decisions really make a difference when they're missing a raw material and having to find a new vendor to be able to provide that raw material, or maybe it's a different raw material that they're going to put into that product. And with food and everything like that, there's so many different compliance regulations. And so you do need to have, for you to be able to make those decisions very quickly, you have to have a marketplace that has already vetted those vendors and can be transparent with you as to what those vendors are going to do for you and how they're going to do it. What does that look like? How do they fit into the compliance? And so I take that example and I think about what we're doing in the transportation side of things, because obviously supply chain starts at sourcing, right? Ends at delivery, but there's so many different things in between. And if you think for a supply chain professional, the decisions that they have to make on a daily basis in a variety of those different supply chain aspects, right? From sourcing to delivery, they need to have the right tools in front of them that they can use to make those quick decisions and vet the vendors that you're talking about. I mean,
great point. I mean, super, super big point. And we know that people are doing more with less. There's less people in the positions, whether it be sourcing, procurement, supply chain, resources that takes time to get that done, to vet, make calls, make sure they're compliance related, where you can use somebody's platform to be able to know that piece is already done. And how do you verify that? You can actually bring it up. You can actually see who that carrier is. You can see how many drivers, whether they're satisfactory or not, their FMCSA scores, things of that nature. And that's what we have at Emerge. So it helps those companies that just have limited resources.
Well, and I think you're also bringing the internal stakeholders together. I mean, think
Mm.
about the decision that we're talking about. Think about how we're asking people to make those faster decisions because they need to, right? Because the end consumer is expecting that delivery within, 2 hours, let's say. But really, at the end of the day, your internal stakeholders also have to have the opportunity to be able to be brought into that trust circle with that vendor. And how long does that take if you don't have that vendor vetted? You think about how many people you have to go and talk to get the okay to even go and move forward with a vendor. I mean, that just in this environment just doesn't work anymore.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, and the decision that you're making, did you really vet? Did you go through all the pieces did you cut corners and bring somebody on because you needed to get it done? And then, oops, something happens and you're fined or you lose the business because of the final execution
Yeah.
to your customer. And you look back and you go, okay, lessons learned. I needed to take further steps. Maybe I should have used somebody else that's already done that for me to get that done.
Well, and also the other thing too is not every vendor is good at every single lane. Right? And so the calls that you're making, the conversations that you're having are taking way too long to figure out who is in that lane unless you're working with a tool and a marketplace who already has that for you. You have the filters, right? You can figure out who it is in that particular lane that's going to be able to. And it's not even just lane, it's also the type of cargo. Like if you have heavy bulk items, not every trucking company is going to take that. And so what are you going to do if you no, 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 like every single phone call, no, we don't take
Right.
that. No, we don't take that. What is the better solution to that? The better solution is to be able to go into a marketplace, find that vendor, figure out who you want to work with, and it being vetted all right there for you. So let's talk about that agility that we started this conversation on. How can improved agility help to start tackle some of the challenges that you brought up for carriers and shippers?
Well, I think the technology power today that is available, like what Emerge deploys, can provide shippers with that agility.
Mm,
Technology, like running a benchmarking event to review contract lanes and use over market rate results and create a bid event with minimal clicks. And that's what we're seeing is that contract lane bids that are much more frequent with our customers, biweekly, quarterly, knowing if the market turns, they have captured the best results for the business.
absolutely. Now, I want to say a quick hi to Carrie Jean and Lisa over on my personal LinkedIn. Imran has a really good question that I want to get to, and we'll get to that in just a few minutes because there's a few other things that I want to talk about before we get to that particular question. And just a reminder to everybody in the audience, if you do have a question, make sure to put it in the comments because we are going to get to those. And so we've learned that the first step is, kind of taking control of freight procurement. It's kind of what we've been talking about for the last 5 minutes. So, Dave, how can shippers take control? And will those solutions also benefit carriers that need to make good decisions quickly? Now, this is a really interesting question, right? Because at the end of the day, it can't be one-sided anymore. It's got to benefit both parties. And I think we're seeing that more and more with the collaboration that's come out of the pandemic.
Yeah, shippers, want as much market updates as possible. Not just the overall market information, but they want it at the region level. They want it at the lane level. So applying timely benchmarking events, shippers are able to get where they are at the lane level, either below market, where they pat their carriers on the back and say, thank you for what you're doing, and there's no action really needed, right? Or at market, where they continue to monitor the acceptance and make sure that the routing guys are in check. And then above market, which is the ability to go out on a platform like ours to do a mini bid, right? In order to ensure acceptance capacity, as well as at the below market rates are obtained, that keeps the overall freight spend controlled. So by having immediate transparency through technology and ability to go to bid with quick turnaround helps, keep the pain points in check.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other words that we should mention and really talk about is transparency and visibility. We've been hearing a lot about those words as well coming out of the pandemic. Transparency for shippers, visibility on their cargo. Have you heard that shippers are looking for greater control, transparency, visibility? Are they using those words, and how are they using those in context? What are they asking for?
Oh, for sure. They definitely want to be able to have some technology that gives them, history, gives them reporting, understanding what they've done, so they can then forecast what they've done and what they're going to be able to do in the future. So having that transparency by, going out there and either using the spot platform to be able to get information back, or doing a quick mini bid to be able to get that transparency, and running scenarios, and then providing constraints within the tool to make that decision, equals that transparency and equals that that decision process.
Absolutely. And we've got Tim and Christian over on my personal LinkedIn, as well as Hector. Want to give you a hello and let you know that we're going to get to your questions as well, because Christian has a question too. But let me go back to the shippers. So when they talk to you about greater control, transparency, and visibility, what pain points are they looking to solve by taking this approach? Because it's one thing to talk about those words and what they mean to the broad spectrum. But from a shipper's perspective, what do those words, transparency, visibility, greater control, what does it mean to them specifically?
Well, what it means is that, currently I'm trying to get my freight covered, or hey, I'm having some pain points in some areas, and I need to be able to quickly be able to use something that they can get the message out, be able to retrieve the information back in, be able to make a decision, be able to award through it, be able to have question and answers through it, be able to sign contracts through it. And our tool provides that. It's one UI that gives the customer, gives the shipper the ability to do all that in one
Mm-hmm.
place, and it's housed in one place. And then, hey, I've got that event that needs to take place again. I can just duplicate the event. I don't have to recreate the event. I can just change the event title, change the dates of when the event needs to take place,
Mm-hmm.
and get it out again by uploading those different lanes that are there, or the same lanes, and then again, like I said, just duplicating the event. So the power of the buttons to be able to be agile and be able to make that change is huge for shippers, again, that have those limited resources to be able to get that done. And today that they're using, like you said, the first of the hour, the manual process of sending out Excel spreadsheets and being able to take that back and peel the onion and figure out what's going on and what do I need to do, and again, the resources to do that and the time it takes. And so there's two things there. That the time it takes, you're losing the opportunity for you to affect the margin on your bottom line for your
Mm-hmm.
organization from a revenue standpoint and from a freight spend standpoint, and those carriers that are out there going, hey, touch me, but you're not touching me, so I can be part of your network. And it could
Well,
be through the marketplace as well, of course.
yeah, and I mean, let's be honest, supply chain professionals are really responsible for that gross margin, right? And they've got a lot of decisions that they're making on a daily basis, which is part of what we talked about before. And so, what specific data are they looking for from technology itself to give them that greater transparency and maybe the ability to react sooner, make those quicker decisions? What's the specific data points that they're looking for?
Well, really, it's rates, and it's a partner that fits my my business. One of the things that we didn't talk about in the marketplace is we've got carriers that are knocking on our door every day saying, hey, we hear you got $10 billion worth of freight of bids that's going through your platform. How do we get to be part of that? And unless they've got a relationship directly with those shippers, they can't unless they come through us. And that's where that marketplace beauty comes. So they're telling us, hey, vet us. We'll meet all your expectations. We're satisfactory on FMCSA. We've got enough drivers. We're an asset player. This is our strong points. These are our lanes that we really work well in. And,
Mhm.
and so we put that in the model So we match those folks up, and it could be not just those small asset players, but it could be private fleets that companies have. It could be dedicated fleets that are trying to get back home. All that plays into that. And so we're playing that match game, and we use the technology to meet those two together, and it works. And it's
Awesome.
been working.
So, another thing that comes up a lot, especially in the trucking space, is capacity.
Mm.
So let's talk a little bit about capacity and how technology and even Emerge helps to address some of those disruptions, some of those challenges that shippers are really facing right now. Because rates are one thing, having to vet a vendor is obviously another, but capacity constraints has really been top of mind for a lot of shippers, especially during the pandemic and even this last year.
I love talking about capacity because
Let's talk about it.
because right now, shippers are saying, I don't have a problem. Everybody's getting it picked up. There's not a capacity issue. And if you take a look at kind of, hey, there's not the amount of inventory being bought, that we're skimming off the top. People have enough inventory. Well, sooner or later, that inventory is going to drop down enough where, guess what? I got to get some replenishment, especially with some high moving items. As that replenishment takes place, and we feel that's going to take place again right around the corner, that's going to tighten capacity. It's going to tighten it in certain areas of the country, or it can tighten it overall, depending on how much replenishment is really needed. And so, again, utilizing our tool to be able to go out on those specific lanes that there's going to be an abundance of shipments that are going to take place, to be able to quickly run a bid for those lanes. Boom, get it out. This is the volume I've got. This is the frequency. It moves weekly. It moves, semi-annually. It moves quarterly, whatever it is, and be able to quickly get that back, and then have a conversation with those network partners or through marketplace that we matched up perfectly. And boom, you get it done, you sign the contract, you put the trucks in place, and you've met the capacity. So that through our RFP platform, but then on the spot side,
that's huge.
Yeah, it's huge, but spot hadn't been used much in months, almost since like April, when rates just went down. But guess what? People have new customers. People have new shipments. People have a carrier that fell off. They were sick. They had a mechanical problem, whatever the situation. Like you said, got to get out in 2 hours. I'm making phone calls more times than not. Load planners for companies send something out or make a phone call. They make the quick decision to go, it's yours. You know why? Right. Because it's off my plate. I need to get it done. It gets done. Guess what? You probably did it for who knows how many % higher than you really probably should have done it for. So using a spot tool like ours gives you the ability to send that out electronically through our technology, have a timestamp on it that says, all right, and the carrier partners see that the bid expires in 60 minutes, and it's clocking down and letting them know that the bid ends, and when it ends, boom, you can make that decision. You see who your best ones are, lowest to highest, make that decision, and you can use our tool to tender that, get acceptance, and get track and trace as well.
I mean, you've thought of it all.
It's not me. It's the power of all of our great people at Emerge that have thought of it all.
Of course.
I'm just delivering the message and helping execute.
Well, one other thing that I am curious about is benchmarking. I've heard the word a number of times in a variety of different ways. So I'm wondering if maybe you can tell us what benchmarking actually means. And I think it's something that you offer. So also talk us through how that works and why it's so important.
Yeah, thank you. We do think it's impactful. We partner with DAT. We receive our data from our customers in terms of their shipment data to run a benchmarking exercise. And we do that for our customers at no cost. And that can be for van, flatbed, and reefer. And it shows the comparison either below, at, or above DAT market rates, right? So if I'm that shipper, I quickly get that information back. As I said, if it's below market, feeling pretty good. At market, I may not want to make a change. Above market, oops, why am I above market? I did a bid maybe 6 months ago or 3 months ago, or maybe I did it last week. But if you know you're over market, hey, why not quickly take it out and see if Marketplace with their 40,000 vetted carriers or others can help me get to where I need to be and still meet the capacity needs in terms of the volumes that I've got to get executed, and make sure that the service is there, right? So in our tool, once you complete that benchmarking, you can select any of those or just those that are above market and jump right in and create the bid right from the benchmarking tool and get it out right away to the carriers to be able to get your final decision on who you want to award the business. And that's the beauty of benchmarking and then creating an event.
So one of the questions that Tim has over on my personal, is there a rate carrier guarantee on awards within the marketplace?
Well, rate guarantees are on paper, and it's really, that's why we feel doing more bids. And when I say more bids, more mini bids, more quarterly bids, because if you do those semi-annual bids and you do those annual bids and you have that contracted rate, if the market changes at all, guess what? Either the carrier goes, I need more money, or they just stopped accepting the freight. They don't show up to pick the truck, pick the load up.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then I just answered your question, because the rates are only as good as the carrier is to come pick up. And unfortunately, that's been the case for a long time. You can have them sign contracts and all that, but bottom line is, if they don't want to come pick up the freight, they just don't pick up the freight, or they call you and say, by the way, I need a 5% increase on this. Having the Emerge tool gives you that ability to go out to spot that right away, or you can run a benchmark on that right away if somebody says, hey, I need a higher rate, or run another mini bid. So we think,
right, you got options.
Yeah, you've got options. So running more bids gives you that time window. Now, let's say that you did a quarterly bid and the quarter's coming up and your carrier that you had for that quarter's done a great job. Well, then you can, on those certain lanes that carrier's doing a good job, you can say, hey, you know what? You want to keep this lane? You're doing a good job. I'm not going to take it out to bid. Let's just move forward. And then those that, hey, there's been some issues, you can take those specific lanes in our tool, go right out to bid again.
Right.
Great question, by the way.
It is a great question. So I'm going to go to Imran now. What would be the strategy to avoid added cost and utilize resilience agility to deliver packages without delay?
Ooh. So packages without delay.
I guess shipments, because we are talking about LTL or full truckload, not necessarily last.
Yeah, and we're in ours is in a truckload environment. So I think of packages, I think of parcel. But ask that, tell me that question one more time, because I want to make sure I get
He just wants to know how to use resilience and agility to make sure that we don't have added costs and late delays, especially around the holiday season right now. I mean, yesterday on Thoughts and Coffee, I talked about, how FedEx has shipping deadlines and different things like that. And I think those shipping deadlines and the communication between the carrier and the shipper on what that can look like, especially during holiday season, what is the impact of agility and resilience right now on that?
Yeah, I mean, you need to have something that you can pivot if you need to, right? So if you've got some lanes that aren't performing, you've got some customers that aren't getting it done, and you have that discussion with your partner, and you need to potentially make a change, you need some technology quickly to be able to find out somebody else that may be able to get that done for you, like today. So how do you do that today? You use a spot platform like ours to be able to go out to bid and get that done today, tender it through our tool, be able to get acceptance and be able to get it done, and or do a longer, mini bid if you need to take that out to do, to get that done for a longer period of time. But the tools are there to be able to help you make that decision to be able to meet the ultimate goal of not only the rate, but the service.
Well, and you think about it, right? They bleed into each other. The LTL or the full truckloads bleed into the shipping deadlines that FedEx, UPS, et cetera, have on the last mile side. So if you know your shipping deadlines on the last mile side, and when you need to get that shipment in from a trucking perspective so that you can offload and do everything that you need to do to get it out to hit those deadlines, I mean, that makes a lot of sense and actually makes a huge difference to be able to find carriers in that moment quickly quickly to make that decision so that you do hit those deadlines, and then you don't get penalties. You don't have customers that are upset and their customers are potentially upset because you weren't able to deliver before the holiday season.
Yeah, that's a good point. And a lot in my past days as a truckload salesperson, I often told my customers that I submitted rates for, I said, before you make a final decision, why not have a conversation eye to eye with the carriers that you're getting ready to award the business, and ask them how they're getting to your origin, to my origin, the decision maker, to pick it up,
Yeah.
right? So
What's the
if
flow?
Atlanta's where the freight's moving out of and you don't have a terminal in Atlanta, how are your trucks going to get to Atlanta to make sure I feel comfortable that you're here versus having a deadhead here from some other
Yeah.
100 miles, 500 miles, because I'm not really getting warm and fuzzy if you're not already here. And then there's weather,
Yes, weather.
accident, something else that prevents me from coming to pick it up. So those are always questions that I think are very important for folks to ask when you're getting ready to have that relationship with the partner is, hey, who is it? Why are you here? Because I want to make sure that you are here when you need to be here in order to meet the deadline that I've got.
Yeah. And you're able to ask those questions on your platform?
We can. Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. So Christian has a question about the collaboration between or the partnerships, I think, that are being formed between particular parties within the trucking industry. And they're asking, will more 3PLs, TMS systems, and asset-based transportation companies follow suit, or will the industry just remain fragmented and companies act as individual contributors?
Mm.
I want to contribute to that a little bit because I think that, especially in trucking, we have companies from a variety of different aspects, from small carriers who only do certain lanes and local lanes. I don't think you're ever going to get rid of that. I think we are always going to have a lot of options to go through and a lot of options to sort through. And I think we need technology like yours to be able to help us sift through and figure out which are the right carriers for us. But that's just my opinion. I'm sorry. I know the question is for you, but
No. That's a great point. And I would say that, our platform, our technology is just not for shippers. And we have 3PLs that are using our technology. We have 3PLs that own contracts that feel very good and need the agile piece of the technology to be able to help their bottom line and tie into their TMS, right? So we have integrations that we have partnered with for several TMS companies out there that help them take this pre-execution, right, and then help them embody what's the routing guide going to look like within the TMS. I used to sell TMS for the last 4 years in my last position, and it's so key to be able to make sure that all those are singing, all those are adapting, integrating where they can. And I think that's a big piece of who we are to merge in terms of making sure that we integrate with our partners' systems that they already have. And we're continuing to do more and more and more of that because we're hearing that, hey, we have this system. How can we make sure what you're doing for us here is not disconnected to our system? How can we make sure those two talk? Because we have limited IT resources to make that happen. And so we help bridge that gap. I'm moving a little bit away from that question, but I think the key is you're right. There's going to still be some that kind of act solely on their own that and will continue to do that. But I also see some connectivity happening as well. And I think that'll continue to happen through APIs and other integration points.
Well, and I think, talking about using the Emerge platform on its own. So if you're a small business, right, and you don't necessarily need them to speak, but then you also have the capability to integrate with a company's system. So you're able to work with a variety of different organizations from small, medium to large, which I think is a huge point, right? Because a lot of times small business feel left behind, but if they know that they can also use your platform, sort of standalone to help them with these quick decisions, then that competitive advantage that they're going to get in their market is a really big deal to them. And so thank you all for your questions. These are great. We've got another one from Tara. How do shippers today coordinate work with all pieces departments within the supply chain? That is a very big question, and I think we might need another hour to unpack it. To unpack it. But I think when we're talking specifically about the trucking arena, I think we could probably answer that.
Yeah, I said a little bit earlier, but whether you have a centralized or a decentralized operating model, the importance of working closely with all parts of supply chain is key to being agile. What do I mean by that? So I mentioned earlier about sourcing, warehousing, inventory, sales. All those folks need to be aligned. So the pre-execution layer of transportation becomes so important to ensure not just the lowest cost is met, but the consideration for customer service, service of the shipments, and ensuring your network provider, your carrier, right, is the right partner for your business. So it's extremely important. And one of the things that I think is cool about what we have at Emerge is we have tools that allow that coordination of one system of record. So if you're decentralized and you've got folks all over the United States that are at different warehouses that are doing the load planning for your transportation, or you've got everybody housed in one corporate office, you've got multiple users that are on the same system, and then those users, what their activity was. You can see from a reporting aspect what I did last week, last month. Do I need to replicate that and use that history to be able to understand what my forecast may need to look like in the future?
Absolutely. Such a great question.
Great question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tara. So I want to ask you, what would you like to leave our audience with today? How can our audience begin the journey of discovery, maybe evaluating their current logistics processes and identifying the gaps? Like, what are those gaps? What should we be looking for? What are the questions we should be asking ourselves?
Well, we feel at Emerge that having the right technology in order to be agile is the key to developing resilience. Be it benchmarking, contract lane bids, spot bids, or more access to that network partner. 40,000 carriers out there that, like I said, they're telling us where they want the business. They have these trucks that can move from point A to point B, and how we tie that back to our customers. So I think that's really what it boils down to, is having that right technology, and we feel like we have that here to be able to support what those needs are today, and not just today, but we feel like as whatever happens in the market in the future, we've got the technology to be able to assist.
Well, and I think, take a look, talk to your team. Take a look at the process that you have right now. What is taking you the most time? What are you doing manually that maybe you don't need to be doing manually, that could be transitioned into the technology piece? And I think you'll find very quickly what those gaps are, especially if you take a look at it maybe over a weekly period. How much time did you spend on the phone? How much time did you spend doing certain things manually? Tally up the amount of time your team is spending on that and really quantify and put that into numbers that you can take a look at and see how a technology can actually help reduce some of that time spent, and that turns into dollars for the business as well. So something that I just wanted to bring up too, because it's just very easy for us to take a look at what those processes actually mean to us. So
I totally agree with that. Now, one more thing I would add,
Sure.
and that from a very easy standpoint, is the benchmarking piece, right?
Yeah.
So all they got to do is get in touch with us at Emerge and be able to, we'll sign an NDA, whatever they want, and give us their shipment data. And we have a template, and we'll quickly tell you how well you're procuring your freight. It tells you right now whether you're below, at, or above market. And gosh, who would want to know? Gosh, I think I do a pretty good job. But let's see. We'll be glad to do that for you. And not only will we do that we can also bounce it against our 40,000 vetted carriers to see if there's any of that fit, to be able to go, not only can we beat, where maybe the market is that's being, coming back from the exercise, but we actually have a partner that can provide the volume that you require on this lane and can do it for X, and that X could save you money, and who doesn't want to save money and be able to service their customer?
Well, and it's no longer a gut feeling.
Yeah,
Right? It's
it's
then
real.
based on data, and it's based on, getting the right information in front of yourself, your
That's a really
team.
good point. One other thing
Yeah,
on the marketplace is that we're now turning on, so our customers are actually going to see within the bid tool, they're actually going to see our network partner that's bidding on the freight. You're going to see what their scorecard is. They're going to see what their FMCSA score is and how many trucks and how many drivers they've got. So isn't that powerful that you know that there's a real live person, truck, carrier that's on the other side that actually is going, that's bidding on your freight versus, well, I think they say they've got somebody, but I don't know, they don't have a
right.
name. We actually put a name there and information about the carrier, so you know it's powered by Emerge, you know it's real.
Awesome. So, what are your final thoughts? Do you have a key takeaway or maybe something that people should think about or put into action before we go?
Reach out to Emerge. I mean, we've got plenty of us on the ground. We're all over the place. We're continuing to grow. Like I said, we got $10 billion of freight spend that's going through the tool. We're still seeing bids taking place today. We're still seeing benchmarking events that are taking place today, even in this market where it is. And again, we think the things are going to change a little bit next month. So why not take advantage of free technology, because
Yeah,
we don't charge for it either. If we're your carrier, that's where we're going to make our money. So
amazing.
that would be
Amazing.
what I would leave from it. Why not pick up the phone or send us an email and go to our website and contact us. Look,
Absolutely.
and please go to our website, take a look at it.
Absolutely. So, as we head into 2023, the global supply chain faces even more challenges with weakening consumer demand, oversupply, an energy crisis, and rising inflation, all contributing to a difficult environment, according to a study by ING. So, once again, supply chain professionals are going to be required to dig deep and successfully guide their organizations through yet more choppy waters. But this time, we're not diving in completely unprepared. Our pandemic experiences, coupled with all of the studies, ongoing learning and sessions just like this one that we've taken part in since, have equipped us with a lot more tools and a deeper knowledge on where to put them to best use, with improved agility being the first port of call. A big thank you to Emerge for making this LinkedIn Live happen and sharing your expertise, insights, and advice with us today. If you'd like to find out more about them, head over to emergemarket.com. And if you have any questions or feedback you'd like to share, you can reach out to Dave or myself on social media. And a final thank you to you for listening. It's such a great topic. So I hope this has inspired you and that you're filled with ideas to take back to your own organizations. And hopefully, we'll see you again soon. Thank you, Dave, so much.
Thank you.